Have any of you ever wondered what it'd be like if Arcane Studios, the developer behind the beloved Dishonored franchise, made a competent vampire RPG? Well, VR Monkey and Fast Travel Games set out to do just that with Vampire The Masquerade Justice. The question is, however, did they capture the essence of a vampiric stealth RPG within virtual reality? Honestly though, anything would be better than that Redfall. If you're familiar with and enjoy games like Thief, the original Assassin's Creed, and most notably Dishonored, then you'll feel right at home inside the world of darkness. The game is a stealth RPG at its core, not an action or shooter game, and while you can kill everyone and everything, it may be a greater challenge and reward to go through missions undetected, as each mission will have different optional modifiers that award more XP for completing them. No matter which path you choose though, it's quite enjoyable knowing that you can approach and have the option to play out the situation a number of different ways just depending on your personal playstyle. I really appreciate that, I love that, and it's something that we don't actually get all too often in VR games. Is a group of enemies blocking your way? Well, you can use the cloaking ability to sneak past them, or maybe drop an object to distract one of them while you pick off the others one by one. Alternatively, you can climb up the sides of a building and set traps to take them out, or use the crossbow to put them to sleep or even kill them. However, to use your abilities and create crossbow bolts, you need to rely on your vampiric powers. And as you rely on them more and more, the blood hunger meter will end up going down and you have to feed to restore it. Now you have the ability to be a pacifist and feed on rats for a small amount of blood rejuvenation, or you can be a true creature of the night feeding on humans and vampires alike. Between the level of verticality and the little hidden areas and collectibles, the game really does encourage replayability and revisiting areas after upgrading your abilities, which can be done when you return to the Colosseum. And even though the game's missions overall are somewhat linear in fashion, the actual experience does feel more open-ended due to being able to approach a situation in just a vast variety of ways. Overall though, I felt like the gameplay is actually very satisfying, and despite a little bit of jankiness with the arms animations or just grabbing items in general, it all still worked pretty well, and it feels like a fair stealth experience, because when I failed, I really did know that it was something that I did on my own error and not the game's fault. So I was able to explore Venice on both the PSVR2 and the Quest 3 thanks to Fast Travel Games providing me some review codes, and both the systems look visually really nice with some really great environmental detail, like the night sky lit up by the massive moon and the fog mixing with neon signs. Even the subtle animations of laundry hanging out to dry will move in the breeze, and it all looks really fantastic. In fact, all of these subtle things combine together to create a really beautiful graphic experience overall, and the other major thing that The Masquerade has to its advantage is its atmosphere, because it really does nail this kind of dark and dreary world of vampires and just the seedy environments of Venice. However, it's not without its flaws, like when you get up closer to some objects, you can see lower quality textures and polygon models that are used. For instance, the rats that you feed on don't have very much detail, along with the books, shelves, and pretty much most things that are found inside buildings. They all tend to look a little bit flat when it comes to texture detail. On Quest 3 in particular, you can actually see the LODs or level of details actively changing when you slightly look away from them and then look back at them. And even though the Quest 3 and PSVR2 trade some blows, the PSVR2 does still come out on top due to its better overall color contrast and black levels. But some things do just tend to look better on the system with more realistic water shaders, for instance. Honestly though, it's not a stark enough contrast to say that the Quest 3 is like a major downgrade. It's just that when playing the two together, it looks slightly better on PSVR 2. In the game's story, you play as Justice, who is trying to figure out who murdered their sire and why one of his relics were stolen. After getting a tip to seek out Pietro, who is a member of the Nosferatu vampire faction, you head off to Venice for more answers. However, this mysterious vampire has a mission and agenda of his own. Even though I didn't think the story is super revolutionary, it does prop up the gameplay well, and it creates a great atmosphere of the grungy vampire underbelly in Venice. There's also a number of smaller side stories that you get to explore, like what actually happened to Pietro, and a number of other little side stories that are pretty interesting in their own right. And even though I consider the story one of the weaker points, that's honestly not a bad thing, because it's still very interesting, definitely enough to keep you motivated throughout the game, and also having dialogue options and a ton of collectibles can actually lead you into some interesting environmental and optional storytelling moments, which is really cool.
Every f***ing sunrise I cursed him for the life he gave me.
It is propped up by some very good voice acting from the playable character Justice, and that's whether you choose the masculine or feminine voice. My boy Nosferatu over here though also produces some really good voice work and really nailed the more draconian vampire with almost a Dracula-esque influence to him.
Welcome to my humble haven.
As with every game though, there are some bad elements, and here are some of the ones that I encountered while playing the game. I'm gonna be honest, I talk to myself all the time. Heck, I'm doing it right now in this video, but the enemy AI can be heard having conversations with other guards when none are around, which is more just a silly type of thing than an actual like big problem. It just really does kind of break the immersion for a moment and makes you remember, oh yeah, I'm playing a video game and I'm not actually like experiencing this fully. So that's kind of a negative point. Plus, some of the enemies will actually bug out sometimes and they'll like just start shaking back and forth randomly. And that's always just kind of goofy to see. Plus, you'll have rats that end up clipping through objects quite a bit, and grabbing some of the objects can be a little bit janky. It's not too bad though. Now, even though the stealth detection actually works pretty well, what can be a little strange is sometimes when you try to throw or drop something to lure an enemy away from a certain area, it won't actually make them hear it, but it will alert maybe another guard that's actually further away, which is just a little strange. And it's, once again, these kinds of moments that just end up breaking the immersion of the game. As long as you're okay with the bugs that I have mentioned, I would highly recommend pre-ordering it. I know people have a lot against pre-ordering this day and age, but it really is a fun experience, and it's very much for fans of Dishonored, Thief, and those kind of genre of games. But that's it, you guys. I gave you the good and the bad, and now, as always, it's time to hear from you. I want to know, are you going to pre-order this game despite the few bugs that I mentioned? Does it look like something that you would enjoy? Please post all your comments down below, right past that like button. I'd love to hear, and I try to respond to everything I get. But with all that said and done, I hope to see you guys in the next video. Redfall, what a disaster.